Let's have a demonstration on virtual network, what it is, and all this is subnet and the network security group. So as always, I'm in the portal and I'm looking at virtual networks. So I'm going to create the virtual network right now. As you can see, as always, I will just choose subscription and the resource group, and I'm going to give this virtual network a name. Let me call it DS684. So you can see that each virtual network will reside in a certain region. So virtual network is a region level resource. From here, the next step is security. There's encryption. Of course, we all want to be encrypted, but since this is a sample, I'm not going to click here just to make things faster. Then here you need to specify the address. And as you can see, this is a CIDR block, right? I can choose 15, 14, 17, 18, and starting with a 10. You can also, oops, click it too fast, but this is the address space, and you can also add more. Add IPv6, IPv4. So IPv4 is what you see here, the one that we just talked about with 4 blocks. There's also a newer version of IPv6, but right now it's not very popular. It's not it's an expansion of the original IPv4 so that it contains more devices, but right now IPv6 is not so popular yet. So we are going to focus on IPv4 here. And this is the address space. Basically, it means the first 16 digits of is a predetermined, and the remaining 16 digit you can use that to specify your subnet and the virtual devices. As you can see here, the address range is 10.000 to 10.0 to 255 255. Anything in between is the address range that you can utilize for your subnets and virtual machines. So if I want to add a subnet, as you can see, because the subnet is under the virtual machine, so it has to be within this within this IP address range. I cannot say because this one is the address range, right? Before range, so I can do this subnet as a 24, which starts from 10. So this is the subnet that I define, right? Subnet, if I define this starting address as 10.0.1.0, and I specify /24 CIDR, that means the last 8 digits are changeable, are adjustable, reserved for my virtual machines. So this time it will become 10.0.1.0 to 10.0.1.255. That's the address range of this subnet. If I change that to like 23, you can see that, oops, it's not. It's not valid because one is going to be used. Okay, if I use this change and I change this to 20, for example. Oh, I already get a overlap. So if I want to use 16, for example, right? This is a starting address. This is a /20, and here because it starts at 16 and we can change like 20 digits, so there are like 4096 addresses available here, which is the address range. This is the address range of this subnet. So if I think I need to give it a name. Subnet purpose is default, and I can give a name as default 1, default 2, whatever it is. So here you have two address subnets. One for default is the one that we just created. Another is default 2, which is the one we add. As you can see, both subnet address range are within this virtual networks address range. So then we can assign some tags and finally review and create. Start creating. And deployment successful, go to resource. So now we have this virtual network. And to the left, we have the subnets, right? You can see there are two subnets with the IP address we specify. Now, and right now it's a good time to get to the virtual machine. If I want to create a virtual machine here, let me open this in a new tab. And I'm creating a new virtual machine. Remember, when you create a virtual machine, new virtual machine, you need to specify, let me call it this one. I used it last week. And the region, you have this region, and we go further down, go to networking. This is where you will choose your virtual network. This DS684 is the one that we just created. And as you can see, there are two subnets that I can place this virtual network net in. If I choose this default 2 that I just created, right, I can let me just quickly, instead of going through all this, because all I want to show here is about this default, is about this IP address, how this virtual machine exists in this subnet. So I'm going to skip all this part and directly review and create. And I'm going to create this. In this particular case, I'm not going to need to generate new key pairs because I have no plan of connecting to it. But now that the virtual machine is in progress, deployment is in progress, you can see there's an IP address generated for this virtual machine. So if I click on here, let's look at this IP address. This address belongs to, is created and is not assigned yet because that one is still under creation. Okay, now deployment is complete. Let's go to the virtual machine. You look at this virtual machine and look at this IP address. Remember this IP address, private address. This is how it exists in the subnet. And if we look back here in the subnet, this is subnet address range, right? That shows us that this virtual machine exists inside the subnet and utilizing the IP address range specified by this the subnet. So now, if I go to network settings of this virtual machine, you can see there are like different definitions, but the most important is the key is a network security group. I can also, for this subnet, I can also check the network security group. Remember, network security group exists in both the subnet level and the virtual machine level, but it's probably easier to show it from the subnet from the virtual machine side. So let's go to this is a network security group as a default assigned to my virtual machine by default. As you look at here, these are inbound rules. Some of them are allowed. For this one, because this is Ubuntu, so Azure automatically opened up SSH for me, the port 22, so that I can connect to this machine in the future. If it's a Windows machine, Azure will open up the RDP port for me here. but eventually there's one last port, which is deny all. So apparently these import rules have inbound rules have priority, right? And this is the of the highest priority. The smaller this rule number is, the higher the priority is. So it will allow SSH from anywhere. It will allow anything inside the VNet and allow anything from Azure load balancing. These are the two most common virtual network appliances that you rules that you will see. So by default, they put it here. And on top of all this, you will deny everything else. So all ports are closed unless you specify it here. Unless you want to add one new, unless you want to create new port rules, right? So this is the virtual network as well as the net, security group.